Hello, my name is Brittany Ramsey, and today I will be reviewing the maternal and paternal parenting behaviors. So for many years, we have seen a lot of research go into depth of children's outcomes and behaviors by looking at the relationship that the child has with their mother. What has been overlooked is the effects of the children's outcomes by seeing their relationship with their father. Research has showed that the relationship fathers have with their children has certain impacts on them, such as attachment security, their quality of sleep, and the regulation of their behavior. Now to look at the relationship between a mother and father. When two people come together to live with one another, it is expected that these two will share some of the same characteristics and values with each other. Parenting styles becomes one of those when decided to have a child. Another way parents will have the same kind of parenting styles is modeling. When one individual is around the same individual for a decent amount of time, that individual starts to share the same behaviors and interactions. The last factor would be the spillover effect, which is when one individual's behaviors, whether they're to be negative or to be positive, will spill over onto yourself and create how you will act in that same certain way. So with this experiment, there will be 3 factors that will be included to get the results needed to see if they have any relation to the quality of maternal and paternal behavior. These 3 factors are the child's sex, the presence or absence of siblings, and the family's socioeconomic status. So first, when it comes to the child's sex, research has showed this has been a factor in the parent's behavior, such as a father has been more likely to spend time with their sons instead of their daughters. Research has also showed that since the father has now spent more time with the son, the mother might model that same behavior and do the same thing, showing that boys are more favored than girls. The next factor is siblings. There's a couple of ways that research shows us that children will be treated once a new child is added to the family. The father could potentially take care of the older child while the mother can take care of the newborn. The father could take care of the chores in the house while the mother is spent with both children, or parents could both take care equally of the children and the house. The last factor is the family's socioeconomic status, which I will be addressing as SES for short. What we know about this research so far is that families with a higher SES will more than likely have a higher concordance as a family and take on the challenges of the children in the house equally. All right, so the experiment. The goal of this study is to see the concordance of the father and the mother together raising their family with the factors added in and how it shapes the experiment. The participants were 74 families, the children being 46 girls and 28 boys. The ages of the mothers were from 20 years old to 45, and the father's ages ranged from 24 to 58. The majority of the mothers and fathers in this experiment did have a college degree. The procedure took place in 2 visits for the participants. The first visit was in the family's home with the child as a 1-year-old. This only includes the mother. The father's not in this part of the experiment. The mother was asked to fill out a questionnaire on basic information needed for the experiment. This also showed our research on how the mother could split her time to fill out the questionnaire, but also look after her child. Also in the same visit was time to see how the mother and child would play with each other, how the mother took care and interacted with her child, just to give us a general view of their everyday life together. Now, the second visit took place in a laboratory when the children are about 18 months of age. This time it's just the father and the toddler. The mother is not a part of this part of the experiment. This time the fathers were asked to come and play with their child and take care of them as if they were home, but instead in the laboratory. They were left alone for about 10 minutes with toys in the laboratory, and they were being videotaped. So when it comes to the measures of this experiment, we are first going to look at the interaction of the mother and the infant. MBQS is a 90-item instrument that was used to measure the time and quality of the behavior between the mother and the child. The items were then organized into 9 groups to give us a scale of the behavior between the mother and the infant to similar to dissimilar. It ranges from a negative 1.0 as least sensitive to 1.0 as the most sensitive. The next measure we are going to look at is the father and toddler's interaction with one another. The scale used for this interaction is MRO, which goes into 3 different subscales with the toddler and the father. And those 3 subscales are harmonious communication, mutual cooperation, and emotional ambience. These 3 scales were then grouped together to a global scale of 1 to 5. 1 being unresponsive and detached behavior between the father and the toddler, to 5 being very responsive and accommodating. They took 25 random videotapes from the laboratory to come to a result. So the results showed that the concordance of maternal and paternal behavior with their child was moderate. The 3 factors added in as well, with the child sex factor, the interaction with maternal and paternal behavior was greater with the family of only boys instead of boys and girls. With the SES, the family with a higher SES had a greater concordance of interacting with their children. The absence or presence of siblings did not give much modification to the results. Other results do conclude that the spillover effect was more than likely in place with this experiment. The behaviors of one parent spilled over to the other parent and made a higher concord. Another result is both parents just simply having the same personality traits, values, and views, which also gave a higher harmony. As far as we know, this is the first experiment to look at a mother and father concordance and gave us new information that we did not already have. The main objective of this experiment was to become educated in how important the level of concordance between the value of the mother and father behavior when they were interacting with the same child in a 6-month span. Like I said earlier, the results were moderate. Since this is the first experiment we've ever seen acknowledging the quality between maternal and paternal behavior, it is something that should be continued to be experimented on to get better results in the future. The factors such as spillover effect, the child's characteristics, and parents having the same value did come into play. Another factor that is potential is since the mother and the infant went first in the experiment, the mother could have given suggestions to the father in that 6-month span before the fathers and the toddlers were asked to come into the laboratory to be videotaped and reviewed. When it comes to limitations, there were some limitations to this experiment. The sample size was small, which weakened all the possibilities they could have gotten from this trial. The mother being evaluated in their home while the father was evaluated in a laboratory can be a limitation as well. Another limit is the father-toddler interaction time they had. Having a longer interaction time with different settings between the maternal and paternal quality in the house could have made a better trial. Future research is definitely needed. A longer trial, knowing the families better, and having a variety of different families and different environments could make for a better educated experiment. So for a conclusion, normal experiments in the past have researched into behaviors of parents with their children. However, this experiment added in the factors of child sex, the socioeconomic status, and the siblings absent or present that were not normally added in beforehand in other experiments. The results showed us that siblings did not make much of a factor, but the child sex and the family's SES did modify the interaction between families. This experiment also gave us more information on how the father interacts with the child and not just the mother's interaction. For my paper, I will be discussing parenting styles and the behaviors that go into those. I will be hoping to draw a conclusion to how children grow up with the different ways they have been treated because of their parents. This empirical article has showed the relations of maternal and paternal interactions between each other and their children, and I think it'll be a great fit into my paper. At the end of this, I added the reference to the empirical article that I found and reviewed, and thank you for your time.